Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate my honourable colleagues' comments and talking about how riveting, preempting my speech with how riveting he thinks that this one's going to be. I'm going to offer this: is that I'm not as articulate as my honourable colleague. I'm going to keep this in the simplest form because we've got Canadians from coast to coast that are watching this, and you know, sometimes here in Ottawa we get carried away with language that perhaps that Canadians may not understand, and let's keep it as plain and simple. And really, what we're talking about today, and what our honourable colleague actually earlier on from Spadina, Fort York, Fort York mentioned, and yesterday I congratulated him on his maiden speech. I want to congratulate him on his second speech in this session. Just recently, today, I think that was it was interesting. He waxed on about all these dates and the dilatory motions and how the government or the opposition is wasting time. And I'm going to remind him through you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate if I step out of line and you'll keep me in order, because you know it's been a while since I've stood up in the House, and unlike our honourable colleague, the parliamentary secretary, that seems to be the only one that stands up and actually speaks. There's 184 members of Parliament across the way, and he seems to be the only one time and time again. Although the member from Spadina, Fort York, got up today for his second time this session. That's great. I applaud him with that. But really what we've seen over the course of this while, and I'll bring you back to, you know, he talked about all these dilatory motions and the opposition kind of dragging their feet. And really, it brings me back to my days in school and Newton's third law. And for every action, there is a reaction. And exactly what the government saw on March 10th when, you know, the House Leader tabled this discussion paper about, you know, new ways to modernize Parliament. And, you know, she felt that this was going to revolutionize Parliament, and it was going to be a discussion paper. And then she released it to the media, right? I mean, it wasn't a discussion paper with parliamentarians. It was really, she thought that, you know, releasing it to the media, she'd get some favorable response. And in fact, Madam Speaker, she saw quite the opposite. You know, I think the media's response to that was quite negative, and I think some of the comments were, you know, the Liberals will always do what Liberals do, and they showed one thing, that they can't be trusted. And it's interesting, Madam Speaker, when they talk about, and they stand in the House, and they've got it to almost to an art. And perhaps that's because the Prime Minister is a former drama teacher, and maybe he's coached him on some of the things about talking with sincerity. And when they stand in the House, and this is for the best interest of Canadians, Madam Speaker, and you know, we want to debate the things that really matter most, and it is the opposition that is dragging the feet and really making things hard. Well, that's our job, Madam Speaker. Our job is to stand up for Canadians and stand up for those that put us in this House, the electors. I remind people that this House does not belong to Mr. Trudeau, and it does not belong to the government. It belongs to all of Canadians. It belongs to the electors, Madam Speaker, and I'm sorry, I'll take that back. It does not belong to the Prime Minister. I appreciate the comments from across the way. It does not belong to the government. It does not belong to the Prime Minister. It belongs to the electors, those that put us in this House, and I'll get to that a little bit earlier. Madam Speaker, on March 10th, the discussion paper was tabled, if you can call it a discussion paper. And I want to talk about the discussion paper real quickly because, Madam Speaker, I've been a member of Parliament for about 19 months now, and far be it for me to come in here and be bold enough to put forth a discussion paper about how I'm going to suggest that we modernize Parliament. I believe the House Leader is a newly elected member of Parliament as well, too, a rookie MP as I am, and you know, and she said it was her discussion paper. This is what she's seen over the time of the course of her being a member of Parliament and sitting through the debate, that she feels that there are things that we can do better. Well, there's things that we can always do better, but far be it I can tell you that I would never be as bold to put forth a document such as that would fundamentally change the way that democracy and how this House operates without having all-party support or unanimous support. And I believe her comments were that they were elected on a campaign promise of making Parliament more effective, and she would not bow down to the Conservatives or give the Conservatives a veto. Essentially what she was saying with that is that those that elected the Conservatives or those that elected the opposition really don't have a say and really don't matter. Those the electors, again, those that the House belongs to, Madam Speaker. So the dilatory motions that took place from March 10th to just a short while ago, at all committees that took place and some of the actions that took place in the House, what were we doing? We were standing up for Canadians. We were defending democracy. We were making sure that opposition voices and those that elected us were not muzzled. And so all we're asking for with this motion 14 is that we agree, let's work longer hours. You know what, Madam Speaker, bring it. I said that earlier this week. I'm okay with working to midnight. I work to midnight anyways. I'll be in my office anyways. And that's what Canadians expect us to do. But what we were asking for, one of the amendments that we were asking for with this amendment, and the opposition were unanimous in this request, was that the supply days, the opposition supply days that we have, there's very few times that we get an opportunity to debate, matters that are not on the government's agenda. Again, I brought this up earlier on, whether it was softwood lumber or, a pipeline approval or, things that matter. The Yazidi women, the plight of the Yazidi women. These are examples of supply day motions that, opposition supply day motions that we have debated or we would be able to debate. And all we're asking for with this motion 14 was that the government, in their most sincere way of seeing their way to allowing opposition supply days to be extended as well too. We're not saying that we don't want to work longer. What we're asking for is the same opportunity, the same value weighting on the legislative agenda that the government has, but also that the supply days, opposition supply days, are weighted the same, that we have that opportunity to bring forth the voice of our electors. But, Madam Speaker, I offer you this. It's not just those voices of the opposition during supply day motions, opposition supply day motions. We do see backbench MPs speak from the government and be able to voice their views and their opinions and their constituents' opinions on these matters that matter most for everyday Canadians. So motion 14, they like to stand up and say that again we're dragging our feet and we're delaying progress in their legislative duty, and this government is trying everything to work hard for Canadians, and it's just the opposition that is dragging their heels, that is causing all the grief. Well, I'll offer you this, Madam Speaker. For 19 months now, we've heard a government do nothing. We've heard one side do nothing but point fingers and blame others and never take credit for the mismanagement of their legislative process, of their budget, of their mismanagement of the softwood lumber file. They've blamed others. They're not going to accept any blame. Madam Speaker, and it is disappointing. I came here as a new member of Parliament willing to work collaboratively and try to build relationships, and indeed we've done that on some certain issues. But I'm also a small business owner, and I believe that, there's time that you take charge and you lead. How do you lead, Madam Speaker, and how do you build trust? It's by being honest, taking the responsibility, admitting when you're wrong. I haven't even brought up May 17th of last year when the motion 6 was brought forth, because I wanted to keep it relevant here. But if this government wants to know why things in trust has been broken and why we've been doing the dilatory motions and the opposition has been standing forth, it's because this government has broken trust and broken faith with Canadians and those that elected all of us and the opposition to this House. Thank you.